really excited about today's topic because I think this is something that I hear all the fucking time. And this question is, what is the best food for X, Y, or Z? Is this the right food? Or like, how can I use these foods? So what are the best foods to lose weight or to build muscle or to maximize your performance? And fun enough, it doesn't really matter that much. And people think that there needs to be a magic formula for getting your best physique, for maximizing performance. Obviously, we need to really focus on quality, but also quantity matters. And the main thing that you need to ask yourself is what the main goal is in the first place when you think about your nutrition. Because for the most part, sometimes we need to honestly understand what is the main goal or the main purpose. Because depending on the purpose and the goal, your nutrition, quality, quantity, food selection, timing, all of these things are going to make more sense and are going to be different based on what the outcome is. But if the focus right now, let's say, would be losing body fat, improving our body composition, then things get a little bit more controversial because it doesn't really matter that much. What you eat is not necessarily that important as much as how much you eat. And this is interesting because a lot of people think that they need to eat super clean and paleo and carnivore and keto, fucking organic. And honestly, it makes things a lot harder rather than making the journey a lot easier. What foods should I eat? This is something I hear all the time. Oats, bananas, whatever food is inserted, protein sources. Is this good? And my answer is, at this stage, when you ask me those questions, honestly, I can't tell you what is going to be the best food for you because every person has their own diet and you know what foods sit you well, what foods you are familiarized with, what foods your body likes. And I can tell you the perfect diet and I can design a meal plan with the healthiest foods in the world. But if you don't fucking like those foods, or if you eat those foods in the first place and your body just doesn't like or agree with them, what's the point of having a optimized healthy meal plan or a diet that your body doesn't even agree with? And therefore you're not going to be adherent to it or you're not going to be able to follow it. And if you can't follow something or stick to something consistently, then it is not perfect anymore and it's not going to work for you. You're not going to follow it. And then you will end up doing whatever you want at the end of the day. So before we can even identify what foods will improve or maximize your goal, whether it's fat loss, muscle growth, performance, we need to identify first the biggest thing that is going to contribute to that goal. And perhaps when we think about the modification of your body composition, we gotta think about calories and quantity, because more food is going to increase your calorie intake and it may contribute to performance or muscle growth if we're needing to fuel our bodies for a specific goal. Or if we reduce the quantities, then you enter in a deficit. And the deficit is going to help you get that extra body fat, get your body to use that extra store of body fat, like this thing. This is a pound of body fat. Like, can you imagine just losing a pound and You guys fucking get angry when you say, oh, I just lost a pound. See this fucking thing. Like, you lost a lot. The thing is that we are very hard on ourselves, and we need to replace this for this. And this is done by doing the right thing consistently. But what I wanted just to briefly show you is that sometimes we get hung up with the scale. But when you lose a little bit of that, but you gain a little bit of this, sometimes, especially in the early part of your journey, or when you are consistently improving your resistance training, or there are certain changes that are going to improve your protein intake, or a combination of the above, things could happen a little bit kind of like simultaneously. So that is likely going to slow down why you like that rapid weight loss that you see on the scale may not happen consistently all the time, because this is kind of like you lose a little bit of this, but this is staying. And when this stays or this grows, this muscle has fibers and also has glycogen within it. Glycogen is the way your muscles store energy, and glycogen is carbohydrate. It's a form of carbohydrate that when it hydrates and generates within your muscle, it also drags water with it. So per 1 gram of glycogen you store in your muscles when you eat carbohydrates, and that gets stored in your muscles, you drag 1 gram grabs 3 to 4 extra grams of water. So then you are looking a lot fuller. Your muscles are bigger because they've got that extra water, that extra energy inside the cells. And you jump on the scale and you weighed 400 grams, 500 grams more, 600, a kilo. Like, just depending on how much glycogen your body stored, and obviously depending on how much carbohydrates you had. And we think that overnight we just gain 1 kilo of body fat, and we get angry at us, and we think that whatever we're doing is not working, or that we are not even making progress at all. I think it is really important, just coming back to the beginning of what I was talking about, is that when it comes to building your dream of your body, we just need to think about all of these details. But quantity of foods, especially body composition wise, is going to precede quality. Again, focusing too much on the minutiae of keto, carnivore, or it has to be organic, it has to have this shit or that. Honestly, quantity is going to be the biggest thing. And that also makes you think about, when you're designing your ideal day, your ideal diet for the day, you also want to think about, how can I make this the most sustainable, including things that I like, because there are not good foods or bad foods, just bad portion sizes. So if we think about that in that way, you will realize that that piece of cookie that you have that makes your day, that you really, really enjoy, you don't have to remove it. You don't have to take it out. And some people freak out because when they think about dieting, they think, oh, I just have to go and have a really boring diet and eat diet foods, and it's all bland, it's all boring, it's all horrible, and I'm just going to be hungry all the time. If you do it wrong, you will suffer. But if you learn that you don't have to be extreme, you don't have to be completely rigid, that you can fit in foods that you enjoy, then things are not going to be that complicated. And I can tell you, I am like a living proof of dieting to a very lean physique and still being able to find your way through it, where you can honor some of your cravings, when you can master the capacity to identify the foods that you definitely know that are a bit of a danger, and you have to be quite careful with how much or when you eat them, because they can be so delicious that it's actually really hard to stop. It's not because they are addictive or they are like cocaine, or it's not about categorizing foods as bad. But when I mean there are some foods that are dangerous, it's because they are so yummy. They are so good that you probably won't want to just eat a little bit and stop. It's like when you give me cereal. To me, that is a dangerous food for me. I just can't have a little bit. And honestly, it's like my weakness. And for some of you guys, it's going to be the same. There are specific foods for you that when you start, you can't stop. And it's not just because you have a problem with the food. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because like we just don't eat for the sake of nourishing our bodies. We eat for pleasure. We eat because food tastes good. We eat because it's part of the culture. It's part of what we grew up with. We sometimes eat for celebration because sometimes we want to just have some level of pleasure by eating something that we truly like. Some delicious foods just brighten up our brains and our dopamine and makes us feel good. So food is not just about fuel, it's about many other things that food represent. So it is okay to see food as something else that is not just about fueling, but we need to be intentional about why, when, how much, what is the frequency, and what is the purpose behind eating those foods, and align that with our goals. Because at the end of the day, you got to think about, is this, if I eat certain things, if I choose to eat certain foods right now, are these going to be aligned with my goal right now? Or is this going to make me actually feel good after? It's not just the during the time, because the during you're eating the food, it probably feels really good. But what happens after? Am I going to feel happy about that decision? Or am I going to feel guilty that I just wasted 500 calories that I could have used for something that was going to make me feel a lot more satisfied and fuller? And I come back with this because we have to have a really good balance between satisfaction and being satiated. These two things are similar but not quite. You want to have a bit of both. You don't want just to be satiated with foods that are going to make you feel full, but there is something missing. It's like you eat a bunch of rice and boiled chicken. You're going to be satiated for sure. You're going to be full. But are you actually satisfied? No. There's something in your brain like, there's something missing. Like I want that something sweet. I want something else. Like you start searching for something because it's like I feel full, but like something is missing. So when you pair that satiation with satisfaction, so that means including something that's within your meal was actually quite nice, that you actually sat down and felt like, this is actually quite nice. I like it. You enjoyed it. That makes a meal a lot more complete, because now you're not just full, like you feel like your stomach is expanded, you feel like there's food in your stomach, you feel happy stomach, but also your brain is happy because you did actually enjoy your meal. You added extra flavors. Maybe you choose to eat something within your meal that you truly enjoyed. Let's say rather than just having boiled chicken, you put it, you just made a small switch, and you made that same chicken you put it on an air fryer, and now it's crunchy. And just that little change made a huge difference in how you experience your meal. So your cooking methods can make a big difference without having to demonize a specific food. Yes, some foods are a lot less yummy. Like if you compare chicken breast with chicken thighs or chicken wings, like chicken wings are so yummy, but they are really low in protein, really high in fat, and they won't satiate you almost as much as the chicken breast could. But so it's just becoming a lot more engaged and curious on how can you make certain foods that are usually put in the category of being diet foods, make them more fun. So that is playing with some seasoning, just looking or playing with some combination of foods, using certain things that are really low in energy or calories that can add a lot of extra flavor or fun to your foods. So it's learning how to make your meals a lot more inviting while playing the game of how can you make this meal a lot healthier, a lot better, and more aligned with your particular goal. So going back to the beginning is figuring out the quantity that is going to lead that particular thing. So before we think about good foods, we've got to understand how much. So first step is figuring out the quantity. Calories and macros are going to come first. And imagine or think about your calories as a budget. So if you have a budget on a daily basis, how are you going to use your budget in a wise way that is going to allow you to be satiated and satisfied? So you decide how you spend your budget. And that's why it is truly important, more than the timing or when you spend your budget, how you spend it, is my spend it in the right foods strategically that allows me to go through the day successfully without me needing to get or borrow from my tomorrow's budget. So basically, when you just go over your allotted budget on a daily basis, which by the way, we can discuss a little bit further about calorie cycling and more so like a weekly calorie budget rather than daily calorie budget, that makes you think in a much better way how to approach your nutrition rather than thinking if you go over one day, you blew it up. Because if you think about your total calorie intake as your weekly budget, so if you were to say on a daily basis, I eat, let's say, just for as an example, 2,000 calories. Let's just put a round number. That times 7 is 14,000 calories a week. Am I making the right thing? 4 times 7? Yeah, I think it's 14,000. So if you do have a weekly budget of 14,000 calories, however you distribute that throughout the week, and let's say you're aiming to be in a calorie deficit, you will make the calorie deficit regardless. Even if you eat more calories one day and less calories another days. But at the end of the week, you actually ate 14,000 calories. And let's say your maintenance calories on a daily basis is 2,500 calories. So you are creating a deficit of 500 calories on a daily basis if you were to subtract from each day 500 calories. Is everyone following? Yeah, does it make sense? So when I get to think about a weekly budget, it's perfect, it's fine if you actually choose to go and say, I know that I'm going to go for a social event on the weekend. I am going to be traveling on Saturday. and I want to have a nice meal with my husband or with friends, or I have a party, and I want to have some social enjoyment, some flexibility. There are going to be some drinks, maybe some cake, something that I really want to experience. And so how can I use my budget in a smart way that is going to allow me to not just achieve my goal that I want to lose body fat and improve my body composition, but I also want to have balance with my life. I want to be a normal person and want to try to still enjoy my life, because that is going to make your journey sustainable. And it's going to feel like you're not necessarily needing to be a strange unicorn in a party because everyone is fucking enjoying the drinks and the food, and you're just with a, I don't know, a Tupperware with lettuce and boiled chicken. So the way you do that is you obviously have to plan your week ahead. You have to know roughly what your total activity days, commitments, and stuff are going to be like. So you can plan ahead and think, okay, if I have a budget of, I already forgot how many calories I had. Okay, 14,000. So if I had 14,000 calorie budget, what should I do with it? Obviously, it takes a lot more brain power to actually have to think and sit down and, okay, if I have these activities, these are the ways that I'm going to distribute that. That's why you leave that job to me and I can help you with that. You don't have to think about it. But when you're doing that yourself, you actually have to think about where you will allot this budget strategically. So that is like the very rough overview of how can you reduce that pressure on yourself, that you have to be super rigid or like you have to follow a very closed number or target. So when I give you, and you may have seen this in your feedbacks, I try to not just stick with like a very rigid number or a target. I give you a range, because to be honest, nutrition rarely is super precise. Like every diet, every food is never going to be exact same, even if we think we are eating exact same. Tracking just helps to have some rough, accurate numbers that allows us to have some more specific objective data. But even the objective data we have is never exact. So it's always going to be a little bit of a range. So don't fucking stress about being super precise and super perfect, because your body's not going to notice if you had 4 extra grams or 3 extra or 3 less grams of this food or that food. We as humans, our physiology, our bodies, everything works in ranges. And what happens on a regular basis and consistently, repeatedly, that's what your body actually pays attention to and looks for, if that makes sense. Because no one gets fat from eating one donut, or no one gets leaner or lose body weight from eating a salad one day. It's what you do every day that adds up. And this goes for the selection of your nutrition. It goes for your habits. It goes for your daily behaviors and your daily choices. So being this all or nothing mindset, thinking that, okay, if I can't do something, then I just better don't do it at all, it's probably not going to work as much as if you decided, well, I can't do everything that is in my list, or I can't probably get to do my 5 workouts a week or my 10,000 steps a day, but I can do this instead. So you decided not to completely do fuck all or do 100%, but you stepped back, analyzed where was your situation and what was your capacity on that day to do your best. Some days you will have amazing days where things are really, really good and you're killing it. Like, I'm fucking smashing it. This is going to be a great day. And that's marvelous. And you feel like you're going to tick all the boxes. And that's awesome. Great day. But the next day, you don't have that such a good day. Kids get sick, you gotta run to the hospital, you gotta have an extra meeting, something came up, things get in the way, and your plan is messed up. Your idea of the ideal day, like yesterday, is completely fucked. And now, is that the end of the world? Has that ruined completely your plan for the day? You choose how to respond to that. And the way you choose is saying, let's see how can I move things around, knowing ahead of time that you will have messy days. So rather than always plan for the perfect day, have a day and have a plan for the days that go wrong. So what happens if X, Y, or Z? What is my plan? If this happens, if I get a meeting, do you have a backup plan? Do you have a strategy if something goes sideways? So plan for messy days as much as you plan for the good days. If you have a plan for those bad days, you will make them suck less and you will be a lot more successful at feeling good at the end of the day because you were able to master those bad days. And sometimes mastering the bad days get you a lot further than just focusing on being perfect on the good days and then just blowing everything on the bad days. So what are small things that you can think of that just could be your wild cards? You know that you may not need them, but if you do need them, they will be right there for you to execute and put in place. So I want you to reflect on that. So we think about quantity, and I want you to think about writing down your typical day, what you eat, roughly how much, and list out all the things that you eat from each food. Think about the calories and the macros of the foods you eat and compare that total to what you should be eating for your goal. And this is trying to find out your baseline sometimes when some of you are probably not always tracking, or maybe some of you are coming back from a few days that you decided I need to take a break from tracking, or you have not been compliant at all. Life has gotten in the way and you chose to not track at all. How do you get back on identifying where you're at that point? Rather than going back and thinking, okay, I'm just going to fast for 24 hours and slash my calories or skip breakfast and create a deficit from that, because we get very extreme when we decide that we need to get back on track. We just fucking want to do every extreme to ensure that we are going to make progress and that we're going to be very strict this time, that this is the now when we have to put our pants and do the right thing. It's not about being extreme, it's about knowing where you're at and doing enough that is going to move the needle without making it so extreme that the next day you're gonna fucking quit. So the easy thing is, what would I normally eat on a day if I'm not aiming for dieting, if I'm not aiming for anything, I'm just being me? What would I normally eat? What are the foods that I choose to eat? What are my favorite foods? If you think about all these different food groups, if we have 6 food groups, in these 6 food groups, what are my favorite staples of each one of those food groups? So think about food group number 1 is milk, dairy, and substitutes. Group number 2 is fruit and vegetables. Sorry, just veggies. Let's talk about just vegetables, greens, leafy greens, all of those things that are in that category. Group 3 is fruits. So what are your favorite fruits? What are your go-tos? What do you like in that group? Number 4, starchy carbohydrates, grains, cereals, biscuits, potatoes, all of those foods, starchy carbohydrates, go in that category. Group 5, protein sources, meat, fish, eggs, cheese, alternatives like whey protein, eggs, seafood, tofu, options like that. That's your group number 5. And your group number 6 is all related to fats. So seeds, nuts, avocado, butter, oil, mayonnaise, etc. You have 6 food groups. If you know these 6 food groups and you think about your favorite groups, like your favorite foods or staples, your go-tos within these 6 food groups, it is a lot easier for you just to make a plan that's going to include those foods within your day and make those specific foods fit in your diet, in your budget. It doesn't need to be super extreme to the point that you're eliminating food groups from your diet necessarily. So once you write down your typical day of eating, what you eat, roughly how much, then list out the calories and macros of each food. Now compare that total to what you should be eating for your goal. If you don't know those targets, obviously you've got me and I calculate and I give that to you. You don't have to fucking worry about it. But I also have a calorie calculator in my website that you can find, that you can use as a spreadsheet that you can get for like $3 or something, and you can download it and plug in your numbers, and basically it can give you a rough estimate that you can use to get started with when it comes to calculating the calories and studying protein macros and things like that. But knowing that you have that particular goal, when you light them up, you can start to see, oh, based on these targets or based on these numbers and based on what your current baseline is, how far are you from that? Are you close enough? Are you far enough? And just make a slight adjustments based on baseline and targets. See where you are, how far you are from those, and just make a small little tweaks around that. So tuning the dials. And here's the most important thing. Most people find that they can hit their goals with the same foods that you're already eating. Like, you don't need to incorporate anything strange or fancy. You just need to know what your goals are and what your baseline is, and being knowledgeable enough to know that quantity is going to overpower anything else when it comes to creating a energy deficit, if that is the goal. Now, when quality becomes more important is when we are looking to find that balance between satisfaction and satiation. Because yes, I want satisfaction from my food, but if that goes out to put the risk of me not being satiated and I am hungry, I am going to be craving for more food and I'm going to be looking to eat more later on. So if that is not a good balance and I am focusing only on, let's say, quality or the satisfaction aspect, sometimes that can affect that other component that is truly important for hunger management. One of the biggest things that people struggle with and pretty much affect their success when it comes to mastering a fat loss phase, adherence and consistency, is not being able to manage hunger. So mastering the way you go throughout the day, the meals you choose, the type of foods you choose, and that nice ratio between satisfaction and satiation, key points that are going to ensure that you master every day successfully. Why? Because if you are not hungry, food noise goes down because you're not thinking of, you don't have that sensation in your stomach that you're scrolling all the time, and you are decently feeling like you have energy, you feel good. So not being hungry throughout the day will reduce that food noise. But this food noise can also come if you're not paying attention to the satisfaction part. Because if you are eating fucking salad all day, you're probably full, but you are not enjoying your meals necessarily. Something is missing. If you remove your carbohydrates from your diet, or that specific food that you truly enjoy, and you feel like something is missing, then again, food noise comes up. So mastering that other point, which is food noise, is going to be a key point for you to be successful at not overindulging over the weekends, or when you have the opportunity, or when the food is in front of you, you just fucking lose it. The only way that you can do that is knowing that you don't have to eliminate any of those foods, but they can also be eaten anytime. Sometimes we have this scarcity mindset that if we can't eat it now, then you freak out. It's like, hey, you can eat this anytime, whenever you fucking want. And why is this important? Because sometimes, let's say holidays, Thanksgiving, that turkey that you eat in Thanksgiving, you can eat it anytime, tomorrow, but in 2 weeks. You don't have to eat everything on one day just because it's Thanksgiving, or just because it's my birthday, or whatever. Again, comes down to priorities and making decisions and choices that are not just aligned with your goals, but also are going to make you feel good. Because sometimes and let's be honest, we can have a goal and we still don't fucking do what we need to do. Like, it's not about that. It's about thinking a little bit more shorter term and thinking, if I do eat this, am I going to feel good after? And to me, that is an important question, because like, if I am going to feel bloated or uncomfortable, or if these foods are going to just make me feel like I just wasted extra calories I could have used for something else, or I just shouldn't have eaten this for X, Y, or Z, it was perhaps not the right choice at this point in time. If you're able to make and go through that reflection before just devouring something without intention, that can make a big difference in how you navigate the day and how you feel after. Again, these smaller decisions compound over time, and these impacts the way you feel about your self-confidence, knowing that you can do hard things, that you can navigate tough situations and still survive, that you're not gonna die if you don't eat a donut on one day, or even if you do have something, how you eat it in several days. So it is about that combination and being prepared. We do need to focus on upgrading our diet. If you know that there are foods that are probably not very nutritious, and then now, after we have optimized the quantity, how can now we make the quantity higher quality? Because that then is going to increase the opportunities and the chances for our body to be better nourished, prevent deficiencies, improve our well-being, our health, our performance. And same goes for perhaps what aligns better with your routine. Time of the day when you eat certain foods is not the same for me, for example, to eat let's say a protein shake early in the morning versus at night, because in the morning I am really, really hungry, and a protein shake is not going to get anywhere. Like, don't give me fucking protein shake. Just give me a big piece of chicken, something solid, and give me a lot of veggies so I can feel full throughout the day. If you're going to give me something a lot lighter, perhaps that's closer to bed, because I don't want to be bloated or having something affecting the quality of my sleep while my body's digesting fiber or foods like that. So it's just being strategic on when you eat and choose to eat certain foods, as well as how much. But also, I think one missing piece that I see very commonly happening with a lot of you is struggling with that meal distribution. And believe it or not, front loading your meals, protein and vegetables and volume, as your very first meal of the day can make a big difference in your adherence and the management of your appetite and hunger throughout the day. Especially if you are someone that works at outside home, or you're very busy, or you don't tend to have accessible food throughout the day as easily, or you work in an office. Believe me, if you have a very big, solid breakfast, even if you're not a breakfast fucking person, you train your gut, you train your body to have breakfast. You train your hunger hormones to start being secreted at a different time, and your body gets used to it. And once you train it and you train your hormones, you will get hungry in the morning eventually. But prioritizing breakfast is actually a very smart move. When you front load it with the right foods, the rest of the day is not going to be as hard as it usually is when you're especially dieting. And I can give you an example of myself. I only, with this current phase that I am at, just about 1 week and a half to step on my final show and just finish this season. I am currently in about 1,400 calories. A lot of you probably are in 1,400 calories, but add to that a lot of extra exercise, steps, cardio, and 28 weeks behind me, and 1 year extra, like a long time dieting. So when you add all these things, it's going to be very individual for each one of you, but it is a lot. It is a very big deficit for me. How I managed to go successfully throughout the day to reduce that food noise, maintain that satiety, but also satisfaction. It truly is about choosing the foods that I enjoy, trying to keep it very simple. The more you plan and the more you look for recipes and the more you try to make some variation in your diet, the more food noise and the more you have to think about food. And the more you think about food, the more craving you get, and you start getting more food focus. So if you simplify it, keep it very, very simple. Okay, what are my real foods? Chicken breast, lean beef, fish, eggs, veggies, stir fries. This is my diet. Like, just keeping it super, super simple and sticking to the similar meals roughly every day. That reduces that noise. And in addition to that, knowing that you can just swap things, small things here and there. For example, if you today you don't want for breakfast to have eggs, well, I just change the eggs for chicken. You're swapping within the same food group the specific food, and you just made a new different option for breakfast. For the stir fry, instead of cabbage today, I decided that I wanted bean sprouts. Just swap one ingredient around. It still is a stir fry, but just a different ingredient. That makes it better. I obviously enjoy eating stir fries, so that makes my point of satiation being like, tick, I like it. I actually enjoy it. And I put spices, and I use a lot of cinnamon and Splenda with everything, and it just makes my meals amazing. and I enjoy that. But perhaps for you, if I give you the same recipe, the same thing, you just don't like it. You're not someone who would enjoy having stir fry with vegetables and chicken for breakfast, because you are perhaps more, I don't know, more a sweet person for breakfast, or something a lot more simpler. So you gotta find what fills you up, but just following some rules to make it satiating, but also satisfying. Don't come and tell me I am not a breakfast person and I just drink a protein shake. You will fucking starve in 20 minutes. So don't go and say that. You need to be open to change and adjust certain things if you really want to make progress and reduce that hunger. By the time you get to lunch and dinner, you're not fucking ravenous and lose control. Breakfast can be a important ally for you to be a lot more intentional and a lot more control when it comes to mastering the rest of the day, of the meals of the day. So that's adding some way, in some way, shape or form, some fiber, whether it comes from fruit or it comes from vegetables or it comes from both, and also protein and some form of carbohydrates if you want to fit it in. So potatoes are amazing and can be very versatile, and you can eat them in many ways. There are nowadays so many options that are lower calorie, filling carbohydrates. Black beans or legumes are a really amazing form of carbohydrates, high in fiber, soluble fiber, rich in lots of nutrients, and also good carbohydrates. So don't limit yourself to just think about prototypes or stereotypes. Oh, I have to eat breakfast foods because breakfast foods are the ones that I should be eating. You don't need to eat breakfast foods. Like any food, any meal can be suitable for any time of the day. So just think about how your breakfast, ideal breakfast, could look like. Maybe is a leftovers from last night. It could be the same meal that you would eat for dinner. And that's what I actually do sometimes. My breakfast is exactly the same that I eat for dinner. Big stir fry, lots of veggies, protein, and carbohydrates, potatoes, or my tortilla with cottage cheese and sugar-free maple syrup. Like, to me, that right now, that hits the spot. I love that. And that gets me happy. So bringing all this together, we need to think about what is going to be your best approach to maximize your results. Nutrient-dense foods, whole foods, mostly, that fit your macro and calorie budget, thinking either daily budget or weekly budget, and play with that budget in a very smart way that allows you to have flexibility. And some days can be lower calories if you know that you want to, or you don't need to use as much. Maybe it's a rest day, or maybe it's a day that you are very, very busy and you don't feel like you need to have that many calories because you may not be as active, and you want to use them in another day that you probably are going to be prone of have a lot more need for extra fuel or extra food. I personally, when I work in the hospital, I am more able to reduce my food intake just because I'm not at home. And I am much more, to me, it's much easier to navigate the day without craving or having foods. But when I'm at home, I am just a lot hungrier. So I, in a way, just because I have more access to food, I am less busy, and I'm just have the fucking fridge in my house, that just increases my hunger. I plan my days and my calories in a way that the days I'm in the hospital, I reduce my calories, and when I'm at home, I increase my budget. So that gives me that flexibility and allows me to feel I am in a much better control if I am allowing these adjustments based on my lifestyle. So you can do exactly the same. That's why sometimes I ask you, do you want some low days and higher days? And I can plan that for you, but you don't necessarily have to stick to that 100% if you know that you have a weekly budget, and you can either make them all days exactly the same. If you want to keep it simple, you can make some days higher, some days lower, and that can work for you as well. So you have a lot more control and a lot more potential success if you think about that way rather than rigid targets that you have to stick with. Because at the end of the day, anything rigid will break. Something flexible is going to allow a lot more compliance. Nowadays, even like the building structures are not even rigid anymore because they break. So if buildings and stuff that are meant to be super firm and stable have flexible materials, why our diet cannot be flexible? So I just want you to encourage you to think about all of this and truly think about that budget, the number of go-to foods that you have, your staples for each food group, and just decide I am going to play with 3 of the foods that I like for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and have a structure that you can roughly stick to. Avoid eating randomly shit on a regular basis. So, like, I know that our schedules can become very hectic, and some days are not going to be exactly the same as other days. And I'm not asking you to be super rigid again or strict with your timings, but give yourself a structure. If you're going to have 3 meals a day, you have 3 meals a day, but don't start adding snacks in between. If you want to have snacks, then plan for I am going to have 3 meals a day and 1 snack, and decide roughly when that snack is going to happen. So you prime your body to get used to a rhythm, a habitual way of eating. So your cravings and hunger hormones are getting released in the same times. You teach your body when to be hungry and when not to. And if that is consistent, then random cravings are less likely to happen. And if they happen, they are not hunger related. You will know that this is not hungry. I'm not hungry. I am bored, or I'm just wanting something sweet. I want some dopamine. And then you can ask yourself, is this really something that food could solve? Or is it something else that I need? But if you can't master or know or teach your body when to be hungry in the first place, you struggle a lot more to identify when you're going to eat, whether you're actually hungry or you are fucking stressed. So that is why having a very solid structure of your meals on a regular basis teach your body when to be hungry, and that is related with physical hunger. But if you don't know when you have on when you're really truly hungry, then you realize that you have a lot less control or a lot harder time to identify when it's time to eat, when are you hungry, or when you are fucking stressed or emotional, and you just lean into eat food just because it's what you know what to do best to deal with an emotion. So I think I kind of like went from nutrient and nutrition quality to emotional eating, because again, everything is connected once we start digging deeper into what makes us humans. We are going to be a combination of mindset, what we eat, and how we move and our lifestyle, our habits. So everything is connected. That's always I'm referring to this trifecta, because today we just talked about one of the three aspects of that trifecta. It's just maximizing and improving the nutrition component, how to make it easier for you to be a lot more successful on a daily basis without making your life super rigid or complicated, or needing of thinking that if you want to be successful you have to follow a meal plan or eliminate things that you want to include in your diet, or just tend to go for these extremes that you don't have to. So I hope it all made sense. I hope it gave you quite a few data points and tips that are going to be valuable for implementation. That's the whole point of these master classes, and for me to coming up with these points that I feel like they can make a big difference in how you see nutrition and how you navigate your journey at much ease with a strategy and a lot less noise. So I hope you guys all took some takeaways. If you did learn something today, put them in the Facebook group. That would mean the world to me to see what were your takeaways. Being able to read them and comments back on those are super important to me. And also, like, just building this community and knowing that everyone is going through the same shit. We are all in the same thing in one way or another, and I want you guys to feel supported. So I love that you were able to make it. Love to seeing all your faces. And one thing that probably is going to make a little bit of a change next week, I'm competing. I'm going to be traveling to Japan next week. So I am going to get invited a person that has a little bit of additional experience with mindset, managing anxiety and stress. And she will come to talk about anxiety and mastering, navigating that emotional aspect of nutrition, like how to navigate those things with some strategies. So still try to make it through. I'm going to put some information during the week so you can still attend at the same time, the same place. But I'm probably not going to be able to be here. But you will. I want to maintain this time consistently every day, every Thursday/Friday. So you always have a time to come, whether it's going to be a master class like this one today, where it's not that interactive, or whether it's an open Q&A, or I have a guest that can just bring some value from a different topic, or something that can still teach you something that will give you extra tips and strategies to be good at whatever you need to do. So we'll try to make it anyways, regardless of who is going to be presenting or who's going to be here, because the point is making this time consistent, regular, every week, so you get some form of value in one way or another.